Hello everybody, welcome back to today's video. We are going to be painting this or some variation of this fall themed forest painting. I apologize if I've said this multiple times in previous videos or future videos because I never know what order I'm going to upload these things in, but I am painting on a wood canvas with a watercolor gesso medium painted onto it. But you by no means need this to paint this painting. You can use a watercolor piece of paper. I am simply using a wood slice because I have to get through all of these wood slices in preparations for markets. Yeah, so that's, I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone by painting it on this thing instead of using a watercolor piece of paper. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to zoom in nice and close so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. We're going to be working with a lot of fall, cozy fall colors today. So the first thing that you want to do, I don't know if my forest, I have a similar one that I painted in green. I don't know when I'm going to upload that one. If I uploaded it already, then this will make sense, but we're doing the same thing as that one where we are applying a wash, like a background wash first to our canvas before we start with the finer details. And the reason we're doing this is because it helps us further down the line to apply our details with a lot more ease if we already have a background color established. So I'm just painting basically in like a U shape, just the sides and the bottom with more pigment, and then dipping my paintbrush in water and just basically gradienting that color out and then covering the entire canvas. Like so. So if you're working with a watercolor piece of paper, which you most likely are, because not everyone has this, but it would help if you painted it in a circle. It would be a lot easier to follow along if you just traced out a circle using a lid or something onto a watercolor piece of paper and then followed along that way, because it might get confusing if you're using a rectangle or a square. So I'm just going to apply just a tiny bit more. I'm going to mix a little bit of black in there to make the base a little bit darker. And this will just make the whole thing so much easier if we don't have to, like if we already have color established on the bottom. I'm maybe going to add in some orange. And I'm going to add in that orange on the sides as well, because I didn't do that in the first one that I showed you. But now that I'm thinking of it, if we already have color there, then painting on the leaves is going to be a whole lot easier. So I'm just adding some yellow in there as well. Like so. Perfect. So we're just gonna let that kind of start drying. And while it's drying, I am going to just paint a couple more things on there. So I'm taking my brown and I'm just extending a few lines upwards like this. And these are just going to be trees that are kind of in the background that you can barely see. So we can let this dry, like half dry, and then we can come back for the next layer. While that is drying, I'm gonna just replicate the same thing on some other wood slices because I have to paint them anyway, and perhaps it would help for you to see the process done again. So this one has dried enough for me to continue on to the next layer. So what I'm doing is taking brown, I'm mixing a little bit of black in with my brown so that I have a darker brown. And I'm gonna switch to my smaller, or my liner brush now, my size 1. And this is where I'm gonna start painting like more detailed trees. So this one is going to go in all different directions, like so. So you don't have to paint as detailed of a tree as that. Like that was a little bit extra, but yeah. So this next tree is a little bit darker. I'm hoping that it's a little bit darker. And here you can see I'm not going to be as detailed and precise with my branches because this is fall, you know, like trees look dead and sad. And you can see my background has not dried completely because my my tree is bleeding a little bit, which is not ideal, but not the end of the world either. So now I'm gonna start getting quite a bit darker, hopefully here. So adding more black, you know, less water, and yeah, getting darker. And you don't want to neglect the bottom here, by the way. Like, definitely keep that in mind while you're painting, because we want it to be kind of dramatic. So I'm just taking dark brown here, filling it in a little bit. Then I'm rinsing my brush and trying to blend that out so it's not as harsh, because right now it looks very intense and I don't want that. I want it to be like a smoother transition. That's a little bit better. See? So see how you can see that first layer of tree that we painted. When we first painted it, it looked really intense. It looked very pigmented and in the forefront. And now it has faded, partly because it's dried and partly because we've been painting darker and darker layers. And that's the idea. That's what we want to happen, because we want it to look like there's some sort of depth to this painting. So, okay, now that we've got a good amount of trees down here, maybe just gonna paint one more. Like so. I'm going to get down some, sorry, I'm gonna paint one more. So yeah, I'm gonna start putting down some color, and you know, we obviously already put some orange and yellow down, and see how we have that base there. It's barely there. I could have added way more, but if that was completely white, we would have been working with just a completely blank canvas. And so every imperfection in the colors that we laid down would be completely visible because of that white background. But now we've got sort of a buffer that if we make any weird brush strokes, it isn't going to be blatantly obvious. It's kind of going to be covered up by, well, blended in almost, I should say. So it's good that some of our trees are still a tad bit wet, because the color that we paint over top can sort of blend into them. So what I'm doing, like, that was way too intense. So I'm watering my pigment down a tad bit and then applying it in a very blotchy pattern, like I'm dabbing the side of my brush. And actually, I'm going to switch brushes because this one achieves that look a lot better than a liner brush. And you could just apply the color wherever you'd like, wherever it kind of looks good to you. Okay, I'm gonna add some yellow to mine. I'm gonna go ahead and add a few more layers with some nice brown, because it looks like it's really faded. So you can just, you know, keep adding layers of trees until you're happy with how your forest looks. And don't forget about the foreground. Like, it's, I mean, it looks nice if you don't put anything there, but I think it adds this layer of drama to your painting if you do. It makes it look more spooky, more intense, like, but that's just my opinion. It's your painting, you can do it whatever you want. So I'm adding some black here to my foreground. Because that brown just wasn't doing it for me. And I'll even be daring enough to add some black trees. I think I am done, I think. What I'm gonna do, actually, is just pick up pigment and tap my brush against it, and it'll flicker some black onto there, maybe even brown. I'll pick up some brown and do the same thing, which adds another level of detail, more spookiness, moodiness to that. But yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So this is what it looks like in comparison to the first one I showed you. So you can see it's quite a bit different in that this one I had a lot less background, so it's much whiter, which actually, you know, looks pretty nice too. So it's, you'll see that each one looks a little bit different, and that's the beauty of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit like on this video as well, and I'll see you in the next one.